Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. Today I'm doing a video for the Paint Couture creative team. For my project today, I'm going to be working on this terracotta pot. I'm going to wipe it down and then I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Buttercream chalk paint with their 1¼ square brush. I'm going to be adding 2 coats of this chalk paint on the outside and inside, just making sure that I have the coverage that I want. I am going for a vintage look, so I don't need it to be completely uniform. And I'm not worried about my paint sticking to this surface. Terracotta is very porous, so this chalk paint will stick really well. Once my 2 coats of buttercream chalk paint were completely dry on the inside and outside, I took out IOD's new Alfred Peats and Co. paint inlay. This is one of the sheets from that design, and I thought it would look great on this little pot. So I'm just going to work out exactly how much room I have to work with. I'm going to have it going up just a little bit onto that top lip. So I'm going to crease it, and then I'm going to use my scissors to cut out along the lines. They can be quite helpful on these paint inlays. And then I'm also going to cut it even further so that it's easier to lay it down on that curved surface. I'm going to lay down an even coat, not a super heavy coat, but an even coat of the buttercream chalk paint. And then I'm going to mist the back of my paint inlay with water and then press it into my wet chalk paint. So I'm pressing down, not applying too much pressure as I'm moving my fingers. I don't want to smear that paint. And then I'm adding some more moisture with my water mister. And I'm going to keep adding the pieces of paint inlay and also applying pressure with a wet wipe as well. So just repeating those same steps, laying the paint inlay into the wet chalk paint, adding more moisture with my water mister, and a bit of pressure with my wet wipe. I let my paint inlay dry completely, and as you can see here, the paper has turned opaque again. I'm going to use my mister to wet that inlay again. I'm going to give it about 60 seconds for that water to soak in, and then I'm going to start removing the inlay. And if any of the paper doesn't want to come away, add a little bit more water, a little bit more time. And I didn't get a perfect transfer, but I'm not going for perfect. I want a vintage look, and I actually really like the hand painted imperfect look of these. I also had some little lines where the outline of the paint inlay had soaked into the chalk paint. So I'm just going around and using a wet wipe to remove some of them, but again, not all of them. I want this to look like an aged pot that's been around for a long time. Maybe the paint's cracked over time. When that was dry, I took out Paint Couture's Semi-Gloss Acrylic Top Coat Spray. This is a new product. It's made specifically for things like paint inlays. I'm going to give it a really good shake, and then I'm going to start spraying my surface. So this is wonderful. I no longer have to take my projects outside and use a smelly top coat from the hardware store. This is a water-based product, and I ended up doing 2 coats of this, and that's all I had to do to seal my paint inlay. This is a big time saver, and it also means that I'm not going to get any smearing of the paint inlay pigments. I'm also going to use the spray top coat on the inside of my pot. This is going to be a decor item, so that will be enough. I then took out Paint Couture's Ivory Rapid Casting Resin, and I'm going to be using it with IOD's Frames 3 mold. I have my gloves on, and I'm going to pour out equal parts step 1 and step 2 into a measuring cup. And I am then going to be stirring it for about 30 to 40 seconds to make sure it's well combined. I'm also using this in a well ventilated area as well. So once I have that thoroughly mixed, I'm going to start pouring it out into the design that I want to use, specifically this beautiful ornate frame. And I do have a little bit of extra left over, so I'm going to add it to the smaller casting up the top there. I'm also using my stir stick to make sure it's getting into all of those details of the mold. After about 10 minutes, I'm going to pull my casting out. Now these are just ready, so they are warm and flexible, which I need because I'm adding this to a curved surface. So once I have the shape what I want it to look like, I'm going to use some E6000 glue on the back of my mold there, and then I'm going to press it to the surface and hold it until it is set. I then took out Paint Couture's Crackle Step 1. I'm going to be applying this over the entire outside of the pot, excluding the bottom. I don't see the point in doing that one. And I'm not going over the top of my mold at this stage. I don't want that over the top to obscure any of the details. After about 30 minutes, I took out Crackle Step 2 and I'm going to apply that over the top of Step 1. My Step 1 is dry, but it is tacky to the touch, which means it's definitely ready for this Step 2. And I'm going to put an even coat of that over the center part of the pot there where we have that beautiful floral design. So this is going to give us some beautiful cracks. It's going to give us a vintage look. If you don't like a vintage look, you could leave this step out. I did use my hairdryer to speed up the drying process of this, and it was definitely very satisfying to watch those cracks appear. I then took out this napkin that I had in my stash, and I really wanted some text to go in the center of that frame. So I pulled off the 2 layers of the backing sheet of the napkin, and then I'm going to work out how much room I have to work with, and I'm going to start tearing away the excess that I don't need. So I've just used my nail to create a crease. Then I'm going to tear that, and then I'm going to use Decoupage Medium in Shine, laying down an even coat over the center, and then I'm going to press the napkin into that wet medium and then use my brush over the top of that with more of the decoupage medium to seal that in. I'm also tearing off any excess pieces uh, that I don't want. And this was just a really easy way to add some beautiful French style text to the center. When that was dry, I took out light brown sugar antique glaze, and I'm going to be using that with the 1/4 inch square brush there. I'm starting first over the top of the resin casting. Remember, we haven't painted this, so I'm really loving that ivory color. It definitely saves a step having the ivory to work with. I'm going over the top of the decoupage medium and of course working it into all of those beautiful cracks that we created with the crackle medium. And I am going to work on about half the pot at a time. So once I'm happy with how that's looking and how it's sitting down in the cracks and the details of the mold, I'm wiping it back with a wet wipe. I'm doing some dabbing here and there, wiping it and revealing all of those beautiful cracks. I'm going to wipe a little bit more back from the center of the mold there to make sure the text isn't obscured, and then I'm going to continue adding that light brown sugar glaze over the rest of the pot and inside as well. When that was dry, I took out my brush that I was using with the buttercream. I offloaded a lot of the paint, and then I'm going to go in and run the brush lightly over the high points of the frames mold in the center. I really wanted the high points to stand out. We have the glaze and the low points, and I wanted to bring a bit of that lighter buttercream back to this casting so that it didn't get lost in amongst that glaze. When that was dry, I took out bronze Lux Metallic, and I'm going to be going around the top rim of my pot and creating a little scalloped design. I'm just doing this by hand. I didn't really have anything that I could use to achieve this. So I'm just doing little swirl marks along the edge and also along the top rim. I'm adding bronze there as well. And I'm just going to continue to work my way around the pot, adding that bronze scallop design. And if any of my pattern isn't looking the way that I want, I can use a wet wipe and wipe it back. And I ended up doing 2 coats of the bronze. So once I have this pattern laid down, I went back over the top of it with 1 more coat. And I, of course, also made sure that it was nice and even around the top rim where that pattern met the top of the pot. And then I also decided that I would add it to the interior rim of the pot just on the inside. And finally, I also added a little bit of bronze to some of the high points on that IOD mold as well. And here's a look at our finished French style flower pot. It was really easy to transform a plain terracotta pot into something beautiful using Paint Couture products and IOD. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. If you you enjoyed today's video, we would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and if you haven't already, we would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the videos from the Paint Couture creative team. Thanks for watching.